Welcome to Copenhagen and welcome to Faith at the Summit. I'm boarding the Neurona, a gigantic Norwegian liner, and home during the Copenhagen talks to thousands of government delegates and activists. I've come to meet some remarkable young people. It's safe to say that in my week here in the Danish capital, these are the most unforgettable people I've met. And why? Because they're on hunger strike. What are you doing here in Copenhagen?
Sure, I'm a full-time climate change activist and I have been for a number of years. I felt like we've been building up to Copenhagen, that I need to take the highest possible form of action, and so I've decided to undertake a hunger strike. So I've been without food for over a month.
How are you feeling as we talk to you on day 36?
I'm actually feeling very energetic and very powerful and very focused. We've received a huge amount of support from all over the world. There are hundreds of people who've contacted us saying that they think that what we're doing is inspirational, and it's really important to be sending this very personal and moral message about climate change at this time. I've lost about 25% of my body weight, so about 15 kilograms in total. So it's quite a lot, and it's a bit scary to think about the physical effects that, the risk zone that we're now moving into.
How about yourself? Are you in the same situation or a different situation with regard to the fasting?
No, it's pretty much the same. I also feel very happy doing this, and it has been an experience that I really appreciate. And yes, I have learned a lot and gained new insights. I have more understanding for what it is like for people who are poor and don't have access to food. And I know that because of climate change, that may be more. I think I could still do it on my own, but I get a lot of energy, so it's much easier for when I have so many people around me who support me all the time.
At what point are you prepared to actually start eating again?
We will definitely start eating again if we see global governments committing to a 350 parts per million deal, if we see them committing to $200 billion of international climate finance per year, if we see that huge political and cultural shift that we need to ensure sustainability. If we see that happen in the next 8 days, we'll very happily start eating again.
But that's not looking likely at the moment, and I have to ask you, I mean, how far are you prepared to go with this? I mean, you're not going to go all the way, are you?
This certainly isn't a suicide or kamikaze mission. I am a climate activist for life. I'm not in this to die. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people who are dying of climate change every year. Global governments are happily ignoring every one of those deaths. Why would they pay attention to mine? I do hope that by my voluntarily going without food in solidarity with all of those people who are suffering the effects of climate change, who are suffering from famine right now, I hope that my voluntary action can contribute to political change.
A lot of people associate fasting with religious tradition, desert monks and friars and so on. Is that something that you're aware of, the history of this?
I was personally looking for a higher level of activism. Activism is sort of my life, and I was thinking, I'm putting so much effort into my activism, my climate campaigning, and yet I'm not seeing the political changes and the social changes that we need. Therefore, what's the highest personal effort that I can give to the climate movement? And that's what drew me to fasting. But once I'd made that decision, I looked into a lot more of the history of it, and I found that it is a common thread throughout so many of the world's religions. It's something that is truly universal across the world.
Is there also an anti-consumption, an anti-materialism message with what you're doing?
The experience of going without food makes you very aware of just how prevalent food and consumption is in our society. The first day that I fasted, I went to work, and just within 10 meters in the train station, there was a donut stall and a hot dog stall and a supermarket, just in such a short space of time. And the availability of goods that we have is so overprevalent, and it's so unjust and inequitable when you consider how little some people in other parts of the world have.
Well, you said this is a very anti-materialism message, but here we are on this luxury boat.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I have to say that I'm not a huge fan of staying on this boat, but as climate activists in Copenhagen, it's a city of only a couple of 100,000 people, and the accommodation is ridiculously expensive, so this is what we could afford. One great benefit of being a low consumer, low impact individual,
Yeah.
It doesn't cost a lot to run your life. You just don't have to buy a lot of stuff, and I'm just as happy as anyone else on this beautiful planet.
Possibly happier.
Exactly.
This is a remarkable story, I think, of faith. These people have great faith in themselves and what they're doing, but also in the future. And I have to say, I feel personally humbled by their own testimony. There'll be more reports from Copenhagen here in the next few days, and then I'll be returning at the end of the week to give my own personal verdict on what this summit achieves or doesn't achieve. This is Mark Dowd for Odyssey Networks in Copenhagen.